And we are recording with Dr. Dale Comstock, 2:50 on Wednesday, April 26th, 2023 at 2:55 p.m. Eastern Time. Guys, sorry, I know we said that we are gonna start at 2. We had some technical difficulties, and then Dale and I just were shooting the shit for a bit. So we're an hour late, but whatever. Go fuck yourself. You're getting it for free. We're gonna talk about Billy Waugh stories, as I am as I've said before, just trying to collect all the stories that I can that are not confidential or classified or something, and just show my respects to an American legend and document everything for, future historians that wanna learn more about Billy Waugh and firsthand accounts from him. But because I have the professional capabilities of a moron. I'm going to go to the bathroom now, and Dale's going to introduce himself, and then we're going to do the podcast. So, Dale, take it away.
All right. Hey, all right, for everybody out there that doesn't know who I am, little background story. Uh, I'm the son of a soldier. My dad was in the Army for 20 years. So I grew up in the military culture. I joined the Army, did my 20 years as a Green Beret, as a Delta Force operator, as a paratrooper, infantryman, scout, long-range scout. I actually retired about a month and a half before 9/11 and had already started another company about 7 months prior to that. So I literally transitioned out of the military and had a company, a security company. And so I spent about 3, 4 years working in my company, turned around, sold this company to Global G4S, Wackenhut. They bought the company. Why did they buy the company? Because I was a problem for them. I was in their way. So, I was cutting into their profit. So they bought my company and I turned around and reincorporated, started another company doing the same thing. And turned around, sold that company in 2011. And then ended up in Hollywood. Well, let me back up. So also concurrently at the same time, when 9/11 happened, right after that, I was recruited by OGA. There's just, I think everybody knows what that means, and I'm not going to go into the details on it for reasons, non-disclosure agreements and things like that. But I got recruited by OGA. I ended up being a paramilitary officer, contractor for 9.5 years with OGA, basically doing the same thing I did in the unit. With less Americans around me, except maybe a handful, 1 or 2 or 3 here and there, and a lot of indigenous pipe hitters going down range and taking it to the bad guys. I did that for 9.5 years as well, post-military service. So concurrently, while I was doing that, I was involved in running my other business. And then in 2011, I resigned from OGA. I'd already been on TV once, Discovery Channel's One Man Army. And then I had an opportunity to get back on TV with NBC, Stars and Stripes, Terry Crews. And I decided it was a good time to go ahead and resign from the other job, just because I was getting older, taking a lot of risk. And I thought this would be a better opportunity for me. So anyways, I ended up in Hollywood for a few years. That worked out okay, but I realized that I'm not a Hollywood guy, man. I have a little bit more substance than that instead of faking the funk. And I ain't gonna lie to you, man. The people out there in Hollywood are crazy, man. They're just a bunch of snowflakes and couldn't deal with it. So I ended up from there moving to Hong Kong, and I ran a security detail. A part of it, I was one of the leads for a security detail for a multi-billionaire investment banker, which was pretty cool, living in Hong Kong. And then that's where I met my wife, who's Indonesian. She went to Indonesia, back to Indonesia. I ended up eventually going to Indonesia, following her, and starting my companies over there between Jakarta. And then we ended up moving to Bali 5 years ago. So I got a total of about 8 years in Indonesia. And I have a security company in Indonesia, in Bali. We provide explosive detector dogs, narcotic detector dogs, patrol attack dogs, and security guards. They call them SATPAM there for Marriott properties and some of the other local venues. So I've done a lot of stuff. Started doing some mercenary work for Spear Operations Group, different for the Emirati government, etc. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention to you earlier. So the reason I came back last night is BBC will be here tomorrow, and they're filming a documentary on me this weekend. So that was pretty cool, right?
Fuck yeah.
hopefully it's like a good documentary and not when I see it on TV it threw me under the bus. I'll do the best I can, but I don't think that's going to happen. But anyways, so my life is still security. I do a lot of security consulting, contracting. I do a lot of performance coaching. That's kind of my really kind of my passion more than anything else that I do. It's just coaching people to be the best version of themselves. I coach a lot of people, a lot of mostly men, and it's an online program that I run. So that's kind of my background. Yeah, so
And
there you have it.
and for everybody listening, in the description is Dale's website. You can go get his book on Amazon. I highly recommend it. You can follow him on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. So you can actually reach out, and you can reach Dale. That's how I met Dale about three
Yeah,
years ago. Messaged him
yeah,
on Instagram, and I was like, "Are you in Delta Force?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Will you do my podcast?" And you're like, "Sure." And I was like, "Fuck yeah." People are like, "How did you meet Dale?" I'm like, "I messaged him on Instagram." I
yeah.
don't know I don't know what to tell you. You can
I'm
reach
not.
Dale.
I'm nothing special, man. I don't have like I don't have anybody. I don't have a staff or anything
No,
to
it's
run
just Dale.
interference and It's just me, and I just
Yeah.
do my thing, and that's it, man.
I think what led me to messaging you is I was just reading, I was reading about Delta Force, and I'd found your name, and I think there was like a post on your Twitter, and it was you in like a sports car, and it was like, "Love me or hate me, you're still gonna think of me." And I was like,
Right.
fuck yeah. I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And it was like, this is way back like early in the pandemic, and I was like,
Yeah,
this is the guy.
yeah.
Um,
A lot of truth
but
to that.
yeah. But yeah, guys, go follow Dale. You can go get his performance coaching, go get his book, all that good shit. Um, but and as Baz said and as Rick Prado said, there's only so many things they can say about Billy Waugh. So I don't even know if I'm getting truthful stories, and I don't frankly care. I'm just gonna, do whatever I can. But for anyone that doesn't know, Billy Waugh died at 93. I think it was late February or early March. He ran away from home and tried to enlist in the Marines in World War II after Pearl Harbor, and they sent him home because he was too young. He was in Korea. He was in MACV SOG. Was in CIA Ground Branch. I think I was one of the pioneers of Ground Branch. Deployed to Iraq at 73 in 2003. Was still skydiving over Cuba at 88. I mean, the guy was an animal, and he is Dale's the next Billy Watt, and you can take that to the bank. And it is what it is. Um, but you did know him, and I never got to meet him. But it is kind of sad that this guy dedicates his literal life to this country, and it's like a blip on Yahoo News the day he dies. So I was like, I'm in a unique position where I do interviews for a living and I document them. And I just so happen to know several people that knew Billy Waugh. So I do think it's the very least I can do is to try to at least just, you know, I guess document any firsthand and secondhand accounts I can with them. So what what did you know? What can you talk about with Billy Waddale?
Well, I've heard of his storied past before I ever met him. Everybody knows who Billy was in the special operations community. And guys, like you said, he's a legend, man. There's a lot of legends out there, actually.
Yeah.
But he was one of the guys on the very top, man. So I knew who he was, and you know, when I mentioned earlier, I got recruited by a certain government agency out of the blue. And by the way, it's not like you just do an online application. That's not how it works. Basically, somebody has to know of you, and you get an invite,
Yeah.
for an initial interview, and then that turns into a very long and detailed background investigation, um, and so there's a process, but so in that process, because you're not privy to a lot of information, they don't share a lot with you for reasons, right? Because if you don't make it, they want you to know too much. So you get a handler, right? And so you have guys that handle you, and so Billy Wall was my handler. He was one of my handlers. There's another guy. I don't want to mention his name right now because he's still alive, probably still engaged. But Billy was one of my handlers, and I remember, um, yeah, very very down to earth guy, man. Larger than life, but if you saw him on the street, you probably wouldn't even know, who he was. But I knew who he was, and just talking to him, it was pretty amazing. Like, damn, talking to this guy, and I knew from what I knew about him. But anyways, so my so he was my handler, like I said, and I remember the story that I thought was kind of it stays out in the forefront of my mind is, so I had to do this interview one time for this organization, and I had to come in on like a Saturday. I had to go to this business central area, right, with a lot of offices and business offices and buildings. And it was Saturday, so there was nobody there. The building was empty. All the buildings were empty. Parking lots were empty. But I was instructed to be there. And at 7:30, knock on a certain door on the outside. Say what they would let me in. I would come in, and then I had to go in and do basically a polygraph. And so I show up early because that's what you're supposed to do. And I wasn't about to screw this up. So I was there probably around 6:30 in the parking lot. I'm the only car out there, and I positioned the car so I'm facing the door. And I did my close target reconnaissance, my CTR. I got out of the car, walked over and just checked the door, and it was locked. Okay, so nobody's here yet. So I'm gonna face the door, so I'll see them when they arrive, right? So I'm prepped, I'm ready to go. I'm staged. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. I'm looking at it, and I don't nobody's showing up yet. I'm damn. And finally, it's getting close to 7:30, and I walk over there and I'm knocking on the door. I'm looking in, and nobody's answering. Ringing doorbells, nothing's happening. Like, okay, and I wait. 7:30 goes by, 7:40 goes by, nobody's in there, and I'm like, fuck, man, maybe I got the wrong time.
Yeah.
And so I go back to the car, and I'm just kind of sitting there waiting and watching. And about another 30 minutes goes by, and then all of a sudden I get a call from Billy. He goes, Dale, where are you? I said, I'm sitting out in the car in the parking lot. He goes, fuck, you're late. You were supposed to be there. He's chewing my ass because I would, you're supposed to be there at 7:30. They're calling, they're pissed off because you're not there. And I said, dude, he goes, get your fucking ass out and get over there. I'm like, Roger, right? And I thought, what the fuck? I've been watching this door the whole fucking time. So I go over there again. I grab it and it opens.
Oh,
and nobody came down and locked it.
Motherfucker.
I'm watching the whole fucking time. I got surveillance on it. I said, what the fuck?
I don't know why in my mind I had it as a tinted door. It's like a clear door, so you could see people from both sides. Okay.
Yeah, I could see if anybody came down and locked it. Right? And I know the door was locked. I beat on the door earlier, rang the doorbell and stuff, and nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden I show up and the door's unlocked. What the fuck? And nobody's there waiting for me either.
Yeah.
So I go up these fucking steps to the second floor, and there's one door open. There's lights on there. And so I walk in there, and there's one guy sitting in there behind the desk. It's not Billy, but it's some other fucking dickhead. And, this guy was the guy who was the polygrapher. And fucking guy was a fucking tool, man. I mean, what a freaking prick. And I walk in, he's not even looking at me. He's down and writing shit on the fucking desk. And I look in, I go, good morning, and say, sorry, I was late. I tried something, and the guy didn't even let me finish, explaining what happened. He was like, you know what? He goes, this is my Saturday morning. I could be out fishing right now, but no, I have to wait on you to get in here. Blah, 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 blah. Now he's flipping the script like it's my goddamn fault. And I realized there's no point in fucking arguing with this guy. I said, besides, he's going to give me the polygraph. I probably got to just fucking cool my jets on that one, And then I went through this freaking polygraph test from hell. That was a fucking ringer. So, but anyways, that was kind of my experience with Billy. Was the most notable thing was that, and I saw Billy downrange a few times, Afghanistan. He was, he was always out there getting it at his age, man, which was pretty impressive, he wasn't sitting behind a desk doing administrative shit. He was actually operating, man. And, everybody respected that. And so, for guys, coming up, man, especially, the younger guys, when you see guys like him, man, it's like, damn, it's not over when you're 35 or 40, man. No. This guy's 70 something years old, is still out there freaking getting it, and he's not the only one, by the way. I know a lot of dudes that were up there in age that were fucking, going back to Max Hawk V. One of the guys I worked very closely, case officers, he's a storied guy too, man. I'm like, and he's still out there getting it, man. In fact, he and I got in an ambush one time. I'm like, damn, fucking guy he was pushing 70 also, and but you would nenever know.
Yeah.
I mean, might a little weathered on the outside, but physically still very fit. So yeah, that was my experience with Billy, man. And I heard, I saw it on news and all that shit on Twitter that he had passed away, 93. It's like, yeah, you know what? You're pretty lucky, man. You made it to 93, all things considered. A lot of guys that, especially everything he's been through, he still made it to 93,
Yeah.
And some of us are just lucky like that. I was talking to somebody about that recently about me. I'm 60, and I should have been fucking gone a long time ago. But here I am, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm still here kicking it, you know, and I ask myself, you know, what's going on? Why me? Why am I still here? And a lot of other guys are gone, you know, and who knows what the answer to that is, but I'm grateful for it, you know, and I try to set the example by being the best, you know, the best I can be at it, at everything I do, you know. I don't want to be the douchebag, you know. I got some close friends that died in my place, literally. And I don't want to ever have anybody go, you know what, too bad you didn't die because that guy is better than you.
Yeah.
I try to be an example of, you know, I try to be a good guy in memory of my friends and those that have fallen and their families and stuff like that, because it's what you have to, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So,
And with someone like Billy, Mr. Waugh, um, in terms of just setting the example, right? That's a guy that there was never a finish line. He never reached the point and said, "I did it. I did it's like what you and I were talking about beforehand. Like making money is cool,
yeah,
accolades are cool, but there's something about knowing you're doing the right thing.
yeah,
And there's there's a there's like a deep richness to that, right?
yeah,
I'll never tire of seeing my brothers. I'll never tire of seeing my mom and dad. They're not different. There's no new stories. I know fucking everything about them,
yeah,
but there's like a deep love there that you get tired of songs. You get tired of meals. You have the best sandwich you ever have. Eat it 5 days in a row. You fucking hate it.
yeah,
There's a deep love in certain things that just you got that's the when you reach out and help a friend or help out a homeless shelter or something. There's not it's not glamorous, but you walk away and there's like you're like and you don't need anyone's approval. You're like I know I just did the right thing. That is I think what Billy lived to. I mean, really the end. And that is it's inspiring to see someone not get jaded, right?
yeah.
I get
Well,
jaded. I'm 32. To see him
yeah,
go keep going at 93.
yeah. And the thing is, you know, look, man, I look at a lot of guys, man, that were in the special forces. They were in a unit with me, and I look at where are they today, man? They're a bunch of old fat retired fucks, you know, dying in fucking place, you know, and they find themselves for who they were and not who they are today. They kind of just, when we talked about, my mercenary days, I remember we needed some bodies, man. I need to get more guys on the team. And so I reached out to a lot of veterans, man. It's like, guys that I knew were good dudes, been downrange a lot. It's like, hey, man, here's an opportunity. Um, you can make a lot of money really fast. And so, I said, but you're going down, you're fighting evil, you're still fighting the good fight, but you don't get all the fancy gear, you don't get the QRF, you don't get the air support, you don't get all the things you were used to. It's just gonna be you and me and a couple other guys on the street fight with Al Qaeda, and whoever wins comes home. And I said, and so I was amazed how many guys didn't want to go. They're like, oh, and all the excuses came out, I'm like, wow, man, I thought you would, a guy like you would jump on this opportunity, man. It's like you could make a lot of money. I mean, you could make, man, these guys were fucking rolling $100,000 every 4 weeks and shit, man. I mean, look, man, that was worth it, man, for the risk you're taking, man. But I was surprised how many guys didn't want to go. In fact, it was very hard, and all the excuses came out. Well, I'm this, I'm tired of that, blah 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 blah, and it's like, well, man, so am I, you know,
Hmm.
um, but I was the oldest guy on that team at the time. I was 55, I think, 54, and I was the oldest dude. The next oldest guy was 49. He was the owner, but all the other guys were in their 30s, and I'm leading the way. And I'm like, you look, I was, I had injuries, broken back and fragmentation wounds, and I've been down through the ringer and shit, but I had purpose, man. My purpose was one, I'm a soldier. I've always been a soldier. I was raised in the military. But two, the purpose is, it was bigger than me. The purpose was I got to go down there. I'm not fighting for America because the team that I had was actually an international strike team.
Hmm.
11 of us on this team. I said, we're fighting evil motherfuckers, man. We're fighting guys that would fucking put everybody here to bed, without their heads on, And so I said, I'm happy to go out and deal with those dudes, and get paid for it too. But I was surprised how many guys. It was really hard to find anybody, man. Really, it was hard to find anybody to get on board with this program. And I just look at guys like Billy Waugh. Here's a guy that knew, he'd been around the block a lot, and he was still willing to go around again, and again and again and again. Age wasn't, but a number for him. And he was a guy with purpose. He had a purpose, man, and his purpose in life was to be, a soldier, the best that he could be, and but a lot of guys are, I'm not that judging, man, but there's a lot of
Sure.
guys that, they got PTSD, and they can't cope, blah, 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 blah. And, and that's why I said a lot of these guys, as soon as they retired or they got out, now they're just civilians, and, and like I said, they're like, it doesn't, sure, everybody has their path, I guess, but I'm just surprised at how many guys just don't want to. Let me put it this way. I guess when I came in the army, I was already a soldier. I already knew that. That was my calling. Some guys joined the army because it was a job, or it'd be cool to go through this, get a tab, do some cool stuff, and then get out and be a civilian, right? Some guys their purpose is to make lots of money, whatever, right? So again, I'm not judging anybody, but I guess what I'm trying to say is Billy Waugh was one of those guys that he put patriotism, he put the mission before him all his life, man. And so, it's hard to find guys like that with that kind of level of commitment, to, what was the American way. Now it's not the American way anymore. I don't know what the fuck it is, In fact, I get a lot of guys, dude, I get young guys all the time messaging me, hey Dale, what do you think, what would you be advised for joining the military? And, and if I want to go to Delta and I want to do this and I do that, and I'm doing something I've never done years ago. And I'm telling these guys, don't do it. And I'm like, what? I said, don't do it.
Jeez.
Well, what about the Air Force? I go, don't do it. I said, you're going to join the U.S. military. I said, it's a woke military. I said, have you been not paying attention to what's going on? I said, they don't care about you. They'll never care about you. And I said, your name will fade fast. You're a cannon fodder. You'll be ended, and nobody will give two shits. You think these liberals will give a shit about you? They're not, they're not sending their kids. They're sending you to die for what? And why would you go and die? Because you want to feel, you think it's cool, right? I said, and it was cool, and the skill sets were great, but I said, to what end? I said, you risk so much for what, you won't be recognized for it. And you'll probably be sent to the sacrificial altar eventually. I mean, let's look what's happening, man. Even in Ukraine right now, we got, now it's all coming out. Yeah, well, I guess there's American soldiers actually on the ground. What?
Yeah. Of course
It's,
of course there are.
And I use Ukraine, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent right now, real quick.
No, keep going, dude.
I was on InfoWars not too long ago, and man, I tell you what, I got a lot of traction. I didn't know it. In fact, I didn't even know it was live, and I didn't know it was going to be an hour long. I thought I got like a 5-minute burp, and we were actually going to talk about something innocuous. I can't remember what it was, something weird, right? The balloons, right? The Chinese balloons,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now, this actually turned into, a 1-hour rant. And basically I just let go with both barrels, man. And I put it out there, and I actually said, listen, if you're out there listening and you're contemplating joining the military, do yourself a favor. Don't. I said, don't. Why would you fight for this government? Okay. I said, why would you travel abroad and go to Ukraine and fight a proxy war, right? That was actually, really invoked by us, right? And all these other things that go along with it. I said, why would you, do that? And so I was actually surprised at how much support I got after that. And I mentioned, and I actually mentioned my disappointment with all my years of service. I look back at Somalia, Mogadishu, right? We lost a lot of good men there for what? We didn't complete the mission. We didn't capture Adid, right? Bill Clinton said, no, we're going to get out of there because we got a bloody nose. I said, and all these men died for nothing and were wounded and made for nothing, and then now look at Kabul, right? The fall of Kabul, it's like, what? How many more people did we lose? And are we still losing because of this? And oh my God, man, it's like, what a disaster. I said, you know, this is what really bothers me now as I look back and I'm like, I didn't realize what I was involved in. Actually, I did, because in 2010, 2011 is when I had another epiphany, which actually prompted me to resign from the government. But I saw what was going on downrange, and if there's things, if I came out and said it publicly, there'll probably be an investigation. The American public's not going to like what I have to say, but I witnessed it. But I question how, you know, my time in the military, was it worth it? And I would argue, on one hand, yes, because I actually saved a lot of lives under some of the different conflicts, and I did a good thing. But then when I see some of the other things that happened, I see how many people died needlessly for, you know, the agendas for like Joe Biden and Bill Clinton and others. It's like, you know, yeah. And so a lot of people, you know, like, oh no, you know, now you know. And I said, well, no, actually, I know now that there's been a paradigm shift, and being a part of the U.S. military is not what it used to be. There was a time when guys like me went in. We were patriots. We were fighting for the American way of life. We were fighting for the Constitution. We were fighting for the righteous things. And now, man, the ranks are filled with, you know, a bunch of freaking, you know, woke fucking, you know, things that don't know if they're men or fucking women, you know, and you know, standards are being lowered. You know, all the weird stuff's happening. It's like, who would want to be a part of that? As a man, I want to be challenged. When I go in the Army and I go to special forces, I don't want you to make it easy for me. I want you to make me earn it, right? And but now it's, you know, it's not the same anymore on so many levels. So yeah, I've discouraged guys from, you know, joining. I have no shame in that. Well, you know, what about the defense of America? Blah blah blah. Like, you know what? Whoever wants to come and invade, go ahead. I'm sure we'll all pick up our, you know, our 700 million guns and fight back. You know, and I have no problem with that. But I have a problem with going down range like Ukraine and fighting the Chinese and fighting everybody else's war. You know, for somebody else's profit. You know, and benefit. You know, so you know,
Wars of
kind of.
empire.
Yeah, you know, it's I kind of, you know, I look at guys like Billy Waugh, going back to him, you know, honestly, we look at the Vietnam War, you know, and when you take a really close look at that, it's like, why were we there? Why were we there again? You know, and what came out of that? Not a damn thing, you know, but a lot of dead American bodies. But, you know, Billy Waugh, like all of us, we went down there believing that, you know, we're doing something good for America. You know, we're good for humanity, good for freedom, an American way of life. And honestly, guys like Billy Waugh and guys like me, we actually enjoy going to combat. You know, I'm not afraid. I like it, you know. And you know, who was it, like Bunny on Platoon? He said, you know what? He goes, I like combat. It's kind of cool, you know. You get to go down range, and you get to, you know, nobody fucks with you. You get to shoot, you know, and that's, you know, it's kind of true, right? You get to go down and kill people and fight, you know, and drink beer and hang out with your buds, you know. And so combat's kind of good. It's kind of fun for some of us. Some guys can't handle it. They bit off more than they could chew, and they have issues because of that today. But some of us look forward to it, not because we're a bunch of psychopaths, but we're actually natural born warriors, man. We were built for this. We were bred for this, you know.
It's the
And Billy
natural
Waugh was
human
one of the,
state.
yeah, well, Billy Waugh was one of those guys, man. I mean, he wouldn't have done it for all his life, you know, till the age of 93 if he didn't like it. He liked it, he enjoyed it, and he believed in the purpose. His purpose was to, you know, was still believed in the American way, you know, the American way of life and the Constitution. You know, me, I'm not there anymore, man. I think we've lost it, man. And I strongly believe that, you know what, the next war, let the liberals send their little transvestite, transsexual, whatever the fuck they got. Let them go send them in a fight. See how they do. Let's say, was that guy Dylan Mulvaney, that fucking weirdo? Yes, fucking suit him up, send him downrange. You know, see how that shit works out. You know, but yeah.
Well, listen, if
Anyways,
this podcast doesn't blow up, I mean, I'm gonna be fucking tucking my dick and putting makeup on and dancing in front of a Bud Light sign. This podcast doesn't work. Hey, I'm gonna get paid. It's a matter of how it happens. With
yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy,
I will
right?
slowly decrease my level of honor and self-respect and increase my profitability. But
Not bad,
now,
man. That's where
now,
we're at, man.
yeah.
That's where we're at in America now.
But what you're saying is I'm always going back and forth. I'd like to think I'm somewhat of a contemplative guy, and I'm always trying to think of, on one hand, you look at, wars of empire, and you're like, this is for somebody's profit. This is just for like power exertion. And you're like, what the fuck am I doing? And then there's like the kind of even bigger scale, and it's like it's like waiting for the perfect wife or the perfect friend or the perfect dog. Like if you wait out for the perfect, you're gonna die alone and
Yeah.
miserable. That doesn't mean don't have standards, but it also means that everyone has their flaws, right?
Right.
And so on our hand, I'm like, you know what? Although we do have a lot of war of empire, and it's I cannot ever bring myself to say I would fight for the people in DC. When you zoom out and go, forget 1776 till now, 247 years, really zoom out to 10,000 years. And has there ever been a place that protects civil liberty despite our flaws? And you go, no, this probably is the best place that's existed. And it's like, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is there war of empire? Absolutely. But if you try to find the perfect nation, you're gonna run the simulation for him. So I'm always going back and forth where I'm like, don't fight, I'm like, pull a Dale and be like, dude, I'm fucking done with this. And the other half of me is like, I don't think Billy was a stupid guy. I don't think he was ignorant. So part of me is like, he probably looked at, I mean, think about it. He served from Korea through GWAT. He definitely saw society change. And he probably had those thoughts of like, am I really fighting for these kids? And I would imagine that he probably walked it out in his mind and said, it's not perfect, but it's probably the most perfect place we as a species of, as you always say, the warring ape. This is probably as close to perfect as you're gonna get, right? For the most part, I can
Well,
walk down the
it
street and
was,
not, yeah,
it was perfect, right? And so, but slowly it's being,
degraded from within and
all
intentionally.
eroding away, right in
Yeah,
our eyes, man. Like, I said, we talked, I think we talked about this, or I mentioned it earlier, you know, the 1st of May, freaking people with a good credit score that want a mortgage are going to
you're
subsidize
gonna, yeah,
body with it. That's called socialism. I don't
yeah.
care how you try to carve that up. That's socialism. Okay. This digital currency, okay, that's going to be basically the ball and shackle we're all going to have to wear. We're going to be controlled. And there's so much more happening that, you know, the face of America has changed a lot, and it's going to change drastically to the point where we'll never recognize it again. And and like I said earlier, Billy went downrange because he had purpose, man. But I also believe, just like me, he enjoyed the fight, right? He enjoyed what it entailed, the combat, the problem solving, the strategic thinking and everything that goes along with winning. I think that was also one of his reasons for going, as it was for mine. But you know, there comes a point where, and I don't know about his family background or anything like that, but for me, for example, I asked myself, do I want to go down, you know, like, for example, I've had people call me and ask me if I would come to Ukraine and fight over there. And I'm like, hell no. Why? Why would I fight? Well, because the Russians, and what about the Russians? And what
Yeah.
about Ukraine? I said, I'm not dying for that shit. I got a wife, I got a family, I got business, I got a good freaking
You
life.
got a
Why would
dope
I
house in
sacrifice that
Bali.
now? Yeah, for somebody else,
Yeah.
somebody else, and here's the thing, it's like there's no trust there for me. It's like, why would I trust going over there? Why would I want to believe that I'm actually fighting for good against evil when, everything that's happened with Joe Biden and the Biden family tells me they're in bed together over there. They're laundering money. It's a proxy war for the US government, and then I look at the bigger picture, man. And if you say anything in support of the Russians, you must be a communist. Actually, let's be realistic, man. When NATO first started, what was it, 13 countries, and we promised to never freaking
We
encroach
went and
on.
talked to him and said, well, we won't go past this point.
Yeah, now we're right on Russia's doorstep. We've expanded how many countries? A lot, and so we're in the same boat that we were in. With when Kennedy was the president,
Hmm.
the Cuban missile crisis, right? So the Russians show up in Cuba, and we lose our shit. We're ready to go World War III, and so they withdrew. But here we are at their doorstep, and we're not withdrawing. And what do you think they're going to do? They did what they did. They actually went the less lethal option. They didn't go to nuclear. They said, "All right, we're just gonna go in and freaking go in and fight," And
And
so,
Cuba's 90 miles of ocean.
yeah,
We are in Ukraine physically touching the. Look what's happening now. are there Chinese assets in Mexico? Should we invade?
Yeah.
Yes, we should if there's another nation there, but that
Yeah.
also applies to other nations.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's a bigger picture that most people are not privy to. One, because they don't do the analysis, right? They don't take the time to do the critical thinking and do the research. They just listen to the freaking news,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where their source of information comes from. Well, the news lies a lot.
Yeah.
And they tell you what they want you to hear. And so the only way you're going to know the real truth is to investigate, look at history and put it all together. Honestly, um, yeah, that's not a war we need to be involved in. I'm like, let the Russians, Ukrainians duke it out. Well, what about Europe? Fuck Europe. You know what? We gave them lots of money, lots of money for NATO.
Yeah.
Most of their money for NATO, right? What do they fucking do with it? They built little parade armies, and now they're going, fuck, we don't have an army because you built a parade army, and you're afraid that the Russians are gonna roll over you. Let them have at it. Fuck you guys, right?
Yeah.
And so look, Americans can sustain itself. We got enough energy underground. We got all the resources. I mean, what do we
As
give
an
a shit?
enclosed nation, we're fine.
Yeah. So let's just live in our enclosed nation, man, and let the Russians and the Europeans work it out. Why do we have to send our sons and our daughters, to clean up everybody else's mess? Because it's not about freedom. It's not about, liberating, the oppressed. It's about fucking politicians, particularly, not just politicians, but non-politician types. Um, you know, um, Line their pockets, man, with this shit. That's what it comes down to. This is, the war's a racket. It is. It's a racket.
Bradley
And
Butler.
so I'm like, you know what? I want no part of this no more, man. You know, and I'm gonna say it again, man. I don't encourage anybody to support this shit. You don't have to. Doesn't If you don't become a soldier, it doesn't make you any less of a man. It doesn't make you less of a man. Might make you smart, especially now. And I tell every guy out there, hey, be a sovereign guy, build a business, so when all this other bullshit comes in, like the digital currency and everything else, you have a little bit more freedom and more flexibility, latitude to live the life that you want. We're never free. We're never going to be free. Nobody's free.
Hmm.
We're not free in America. That's bullshit. Are you free? Hell no, you're not free. They come and take your money for taxes. They take as much as they want. You give up more than your fair share. And you're like, what is fair share, right? Fair share is when we all pay the same amount, but we don't. You're penalized for working harder, making more money, just like this mortgage rate thing, right? And these people, the dumb masses, man, they miss all that. It's like, don't you get it? Think about fair. What is fair, man? And Obama said, well, it's fair because, you had the opportunity to make more. I said, everybody's got the opportunity to make more. Just because that guy's an idiot and didn't fucking succeed, it shouldn't mean I should be penalized for it, right? See how they twist the words around and shape it, and again, they understand that, I say the dumb masses is because there's a study, what was this guy's name? I got it written down somewhere, but there was a study by a sociologist, and he said that, actually a psychologist, he said that 80% of human beings do not have the moral resources to stand up against a government that has power that it didn't earn or deserve, right? And to push back when this government and this authority, let's put it that way, authority invokes and enforces certain laws that are not bound by any kind of law, any constitutionality. 80% of the population will go, okay, look at the lockdowns. Look at the lockdowns. How many people complied? Smart people complied. Okay. Unfortunately, I can't say it was only the liberals. I know a bunch of conservatives that were freaking hiding in their freaking house, man. When wearing a mask, which also that's been debunked by several very, big journals out there. But everybody's compliant, man. It's just most people just can't think for themselves. Sigmund Freud said most people are afraid of responsibility because that means they actually have to take responsibility, and so they rather give it to somebody else, right? Rather have to think about it,
That is
Scary
something
shit,
you
man.
kind of learn is when you have these ideas, like doing this podcast and interviewing all these doctors. I'm like, guys, like, do you not see that like big pharma is suppressing alternative medication and they're suppressing this? And at first there's this anger, because you're like, I'm trying to reach these people and get them to understand. And then there's this moment of enlightenment where you go, some of them are stupid and they don't grasp it. A lot of
Yeah,
them know what you're saying.
yeah,
They don't want to accept it because it means that your worldview is upside down. It means
exactly.
that you have to start looking at it and going, maybe there is a corrupt system. A lot of people, a lot of people don't want to be free, man. And that's the mistake I made is I was like, everyone wants to be free. And I've realized, no, a lot of people know exactly what I'm saying. And they go, no, 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 you're right. No, you're right. But they they like the submission because if you're submissed and you're told what to do, you don't have to think critically. You don't have to think critically. It's a lot easier to say, Dale, what's the alphabet? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? If I say, hey,
Right.
Dale, I want you to learn this new chemical equation, you got to go, oh, wait, fuck. You got to pause the music and go, hold on. And you got to, right? It takes mental effort. It's like going and doing push-ups. And a lot of people don't want to be free because
Yeah.
it's easier to not be free.
Well, the technical term for that is commitment escalation bias. So what happens is um, when people accept something as a fact,
Mm-hmm.
right, and then they're disproven. The fact is disproved. Um, Rather than going, hey, you know what, yeah, I stand corrected, and they won't change, right? It's like no, they stick to this bias, even though they know it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why Hitler was so effective. He manipulated the dumb masses, right?
Yeah.
Because he knew if he kept saying the same thing over and over again. If you ever watch his speeches, he would say something, and then if he got a big roar,
Repeat it.
oh, I'll
Just
keep saying those kind of things. And if you got a little roar, it's like, okay, don't talk about that. And we'll go
discard it.
back to
Yeah.
these kind of things, right? That's how he manipulated the masses. And the masses bought into, what he said, even if it wasn't true, it sounded good. I like that idea, and this is where we are today. This is where we are in the world. This is where we are in our country. And it's not just our country, man. I mean, as you know, I live in Bali in the Philippines, and um, to this day, I just can't understand how are young people, walking around masked on outside by themselves in the woods in a car, and they're so compliant and so afraid, man. Fear is a great motivator. And that's actually what it comes down to. You scare the shit out of you. Like, for example, all right, so here's one. Have you noticed in the last year, suddenly the government comes out with, oh, we're going to declassify information on UFOs, right? So they kind of start leaking it out there, right? And everybody's like, oh, see, the government knows something, right? So what they're doing is they're priming us. They're priming us, right? A little bit more on UFOs. It came out with another story yesterday,
Yeah,
another
a couple
video.
of head of Space Force came out and said that there are otherworldly threats.
Yeah. So what do you think's happening? I'll tell you what's
Yeah.
happening, man. This is a
Yeah.
false flag operation in the
Yes.
works. So eventually, what's going to happen? Actually, I think they said that something to that effect. Also, we could potentially be in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so, but really, when the way it was couched was, we might be in danger from an attack from space. Okay, that it kind of infers. You mean aliens? And actually, he was talking about other countries and satellites and things like that. But so there's this. I believe what's going to happen is, you mark my words, that in due time, suddenly, like, oh shit. Another guy was telling me, look, man, CGI has gotten so good. Artificial intelligence has gotten so good that they could literally manufacture, you could send in a couple of F-15s to strike something, and you could turn it into UFOs, and like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, we got attacked by UFOs, make it something really obscure, but it's like convincing. Oh my God, did you see that? They have UFOs just attack this thing, what have we done? Okay, fear, right? And now people and here's the bad thing about UFOs and aliens, right? So imagine this. So I went through Liberty University, right? So, obviously parochial school. I had to take a lot of religious courses. And what I learned was this. What I know is this. Okay, Christians will tell you the Bible is inerrant. There are no errors. Now, remember, who wrote the damn Bible? Men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is religion? Religion's a form of control. That is right. They scare you by what? Telling you if you don't do this, you're going to end up in this place called hell on fire.
Yeah.
If you're compliant, you get to go to this freaking place up here with that. Everybody does it. Even Islam does that. Hey, you do good, you're going to go through 71 of these hookers, and they're all virgins, and if you don't do good, bad things are going to happen. You're going to get 71 goats, and they're all used. Yeah. I don't know, but but anyways, so in Christianity, for example, since the Bible's inerrant, it says that, God made heaven and earth, blah, 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 mankind. Basically, we are the only ones that exist. There's no other life, right? But all of a sudden, what do you mean there's alien life? That completely flies in the face of Christianity and the Bible. So the Bible is error, has a mistake in it. So how many more mistakes does it have? Apparently, God didn't just make us. Maybe he made these other guys, or maybe he didn't. Maybe you see what it would do? It would upend religion, probably lots of religions. And suddenly people that were bound by this, these morals, that were promulgated in a Bible said, you'll live, this way, and this way, you won't do that. Suddenly, like, fuck it. What am I fucking being a good guy for? Because apparently there's not a God. I'm not going to go to heaven. Hell, I can do what the hell I want, right? So can you imagine that world? And then suddenly all these inhibitions that people have because the fear of God are gone. And suddenly they don't have a problem with, smoke checking your neighbor for something because survival of the fittest. Apparently Darwin was right. So, this is Darwinism now, and I'm taking your shit, and killing you for it. So what? So you see where this could go, man. And this is why I think about it. What if they did a false flag operation like that? The chaos it would throw us into, and this would actually cause. So now you have this civil unrest, probably, lots of, crazy fighting and killing and murders and, uninhibited everything. And what happens? The government's got to go, hey, man, we got to enforce, the rule of law.
And the people will ask for it.
Yeah, exactly. And boom, we got you.
Instead of having to force martial law, you will now be asking for it.
Exactly. I think this is where this is going to go.
It's 1,000% where it's going. I think everyone with a brain can look at it and go, yeah, they're trickling it out. They've been trickling out UFO stories for the last 3 years. Wernher von Braun said on his deathbed in, I think, 1977 that the final false flag will be a UFO false flag because that's how you establish global martial law. That will be the final thing. If we have access to Chat GPT and deep fakes as civilians, the fuck do you think DARPA has?
Oh yeah, man. This AI thing, the AI threat that goes with that. So you marry up AI with a false flag operation, and to what end, right? So the question is, to what end? Why would anybody do that? Well, you know what?
They're evil motherfuckers that want to exert their power over you. That's what gets them off.
Imagine if you and a handful of your buddies control the world, right? Control the world. You can have everything and anything you want. You're in the first in line for everything. You're first in line for a freaking space shuttle flight to fucking Mars or some space fucking, city, whatever, right? You're in the first in line for everything, and you manage everything. You have billions, 8 billion people at your beck and call, right? And actually won't even be 8 billion because they're going to make sure they purge that 8 billion to something more meaningful. Kind of what they're doing already. But, control and power, and I've always said this, man. When it comes to, mankind, I use the term warring ape. Men pursue 3 things: money, power, which can go hand in hand. You got money, you got power, you got money, and pussy, procreation, right? At the end of the day, right? This is what it's all about. At the end of the day, why else are we fucking here, right? If you have all this shit, I'll use Andrew Tate. Look at this guy, man. He's, this guy's freaking living large, man. I mean, if he had all this stuff, you think, he's going to be sitting around his mansion with his 10 Bugattis or whatever the fuck he's got and go, yeah, I got a lot of stuff. And yep, cool. No, he wants to fucking share it with somebody else. He wants to exploit stuff, he wants to get more because you're never satisfied. Never satisfied. I mean, look at these freaking rich guys. Look at Bill Gates. You think that son of a bitch would be fucking satisfied with $7 billion? No, he's not. He keeps trying to make more and more and more. Why? Because I know a lot of rich guys that are billionaires. And, at the end of the day, it's not about making more money. It becomes almost like a competition with the other guys who can make the most money, right? And most power. That's what it comes down to. So when you have a handful of these, low testosterone, numbnut son of a bitches up there with a lot of money, you know, and they're competing for to be the big boss and be in charge. That's scary, man. Look at Bill Gates. Can you imagine a guy like that? This guy is a fucking wimp. All right. This guy don't get no pussy. He don't get nothing. He's a fucking punk, man. You know, he worked his way, you know, and he said, oh, he's smart. Well, you know what? He stole shit. He stole shit to start Microsoft. Okay. The guy's a fucking thief, you know, and everybody knows it. Well, not everybody knows it, but those that know a little bit about history know that he actually stole this whole coding thing, you know, from another guy to create Microsoft. And he goes, well, it's not that easy because, you know, Microsoft, you got to run it, you got to manage it. It's like, yeah, but you wouldn't have to run and manage shit if you didn't steal the codes. You know, of course, if I stole the code and I had this golden egg, I'm going to figure out how to manage this shit too. I got money now. I'm going to fucking hire guys. I don't have to know how to do it, you know? But most people don't even think to that level. They really don't. They just believe that the government is there for, you know, help them and take care of them. And, you know, it's bullshit. Did they take care of us in COVID? No, they didn't. They fucked us pretty good. I lost most of my business, you know, in Indonesia, within 90 days, man. Like, holy shit, over a goddamn lie. You know, people have died over a fucking lie. People have died because of the masks. People have committed suicide that I know of. Entire families hung themselves from the rafters because they couldn't work, right? And they had no way of eating. And they decided it's just better to fucking kill my whole family. We all hang ourselves from the rafters and starve to death. This is what these cocksuckers like Fauci did, the World Health Organization, that they all are responsible for this shit, you know? And it's hard to believe that we got a bunch of fucking ignorant son of a bitches running, you know, the NIH and you know, like Fauci, like this guy's constantly flip-flopping, you know, and he's in charge, you know, he's a shot caller, you know, and then now everybody trying to beat up Trump. Well, Trump went along with it. Well, Trump didn't know because Trump surrounds himself with advisors because Trump doesn't know everything, right? So you surround yourself with trusted advisors. And whatever they tell you is like, well, I hired you because I trust you. You're a trusted advisor. I'll go with the flow, you know, and it was a bad call. You know, I'm not going to defend Trump on that one, but I know what he had to do. He had to do it because if he didn't do anything,
He'd be on.
you know, they would have flipped the script on, made it even fucking worse, you know. But at the end of the day, man, we have a lot of corrupt people up there that are manipulating us. We see it every day. I don't have to, you know, go over that, but at the end of the day, you just need to be sovereign, man. And we kind of went a long way away from talking about Billy Waugh.
No, it's every episode I've done about him has gone off about this.
I think Billy Waugh
would be sitting here screaming with us.
He'd be agreeing with everything I said, man. I'm sure of that, man.
Yeah.
You know, but well, here we are, man. So I'm gonna say, buckle up, hold on to your hat, put out your cigarettes, because we're in for a really bumpy ride in the next year and a half, right up to the next election. There probably won't be another election. There's probably going to be a fucking war. It's going to go kinetic. Even we're already in a war. You know, the Bitcoin thing, when that comes out, everybody can say goodbye to your money. They got you by the balls, and you know, life will never be the same unless we push back, man. And we talked about this before the show. There's a movement afoot that people don't know about, but there's the antithesis to the cabal already in play. It's been in play for a while, and they're going to lose. The cabal, the reset is not going to work. But unfortunately, there's going to be, you know, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed and a lot of heartache in that battle. But at the end of the day, I believe that the antithesis to this reset, the cabal, is going to prevail. You know, so I'm confident humanity will be saved. You know, the republic will be saved, freedom will be restored. And it won't be utopia, but it'll be pretty damn close, I believe, for the first time ever in human history. That's what I'm hoping, you know. And call me a wishful thinker, but, you know, we talked about it, like I said earlier, and I've been privy to a lot of information out there, done a lot of research, and I get to see things other people don't get to see because it's not on the news. You know, again, we got monkeys on the news channels, you know, just basically repeating what everybody else says, and they don't know shit. You know, they get it wrong all the time, you know. I mean, there's so many examples of that out there now too. Oh, what do you mean? You mean the Hunter Biden laptop was real? Yeah. You know, you knew it was real. You just lied, you know. There's so much, man, so much lying going on. And I wonder why these people do that, man. Why do these journalists, you know, why are they're not part of the cabal? they're like tier 10 monkeys, man. They're just being little puppets being manipulated, man. What are they doing? It's because,
Well,
again,
they're cowards who get to be on the quote unquote winning team and they take the handout.
and they don't, yeah, exactly, man. They're looking for the handouts. They're idiots. They're literally idiots.
They're useful idiots, and like every communist power faction, they will be put up against the wall first.
Yeah, they're idiots, what's the term? Mass psychosis,
Mass formation psychosis.
mass formation psychosis. There's a classic example of that shit. That ties back to what I said earlier about, in the face of truth, people, once they're convinced the truth is, a lie is the truth, they won't change their mind. That's what's really scary, man. We want to talk about transsexuals. There you go, man. It's like, how are literally people with educations convinced that that gender is fluid and that a man could be a woman can be a man, but okay, but a man can't have a baby, but he can have a period, but and then when
they don't believe it. A couple of them do, and the rest are going along with it because they don't want to stand out because they're pussies with no backbone and no independent thought. The reality is if you took 9 pregnant women and 1 guy and did an ultrasound on each one of them, and you held a gun to their head and said, you have to get each guess correct, and you went through 9 pregnant women, and you went, yeah, they're pregnant, yes, they're pregnant. If you went to the man and said, is this man pregnant? And they cock the gun, say, no, it's not. And you say, why not? And you go, because it's a fucking man. You can get the most blue-haired, fucking 19 gendered bitch out there. You really push it down to that, they'll go, no, it's not. That's a guy.
Have you heard the analogy? If you took you took 100 people and 90 of them were women and 10 were men, and you put them on an island, right? And you came back in 40, 50 years, right? And everybody was dead, what would you find? You would find 90 women bodies and 10 male bodies. That's all you would find. Even all the kids that reproduced, that they all died, they're either going to be male or female. Even Darwin said it. I forget what it's called, but Darwin's mentioned that genetically, he says it's either male or female. He goes, nowhere ever will you find remnants of someone that was something between male and female, other than these intersex people that this is a medical anomaly.
0.00001%. It's
yeah. Like I was reading this morning on Instagram, this chick's got 2 vaginas, one for her husband and one for porno movies. Now I want to see that, but actually statistically, I guess like 1 in 1,000 women actually have 2 vaginas. I didn't know that.
I think it's less than that. No, there is like a spectrum in between. I remember learning about it in genetics. And it's not that there's a third thing. There's like male, female, and then there's like 15 other things, but they make up, I mean, it's something like 1 in 20 million.
Yeah.
It's where you have like more of a X or more of a Y, and they have all these different names. I think one of them's Klinefelters. That's the one I remember. Yeah.
Klinefelter syndrome.
Yeah, no, that's not no. Yeah, no. You're not, no, not 80. There's not 10% of people who are intersex. No. They're a bunch of confused people who just playing make believe.
Yeah. Anyways, they're destroying the world, destroying everything, man. They're destroying freedom. And like I said, we live in some interesting times. It's going to get even more interesting. So
fucking hell.
Brace for impact. That's all I can say. I can't see how we're going to get out of this other than what I mentioned before the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a way out, as long as it's not too late. But I think there's a way out, and I think we're gonna come out of this eventually.
Yeah.
But at what cost? Who knows?
Yeah. So for everybody listening, I can't repeat it, but Dale has credible information that there are good guys out there, and that there is a legitimate opposing faction to the evil faction in charge, and that there's a non-0% chance that the good guys will win.
Well, it's the question you have to ask yourself: why is the left so bent on not getting rid of Trump? Think about this. This guy, I don't care what he tweeted, how abrasive he may be. I don't give a shit. Okay, I don't. But here's a guy that built one of the strongest economies ever, lowest unemployment rate. I mean, we were living in prosperous times, man. The guy just did good and didn't have to. The guy didn't even take a paycheck, right? He financed everything himself, man. Why would a billionaire put himself through all that? Okay. And now he's coming back to take another shot at it, right? There's no Russian collusion. Nothing has been proven. Everything has been a freaking nothing burger. Why do you think the left wants to get rid of him? Well, what, first of all, the dumb masses, okay, they just buy into the propaganda. You ask somebody a question like, Trump was racist. Give me an example. What do you say it was racist? They can never come up with an answer, right? Nothing cogent. And so on any of those things, right? You ask them about, anything, right? Any of these issues, right? And it's nothing. There's nothing there. And it's like, why then are they so bent on not letting this guy come back and save our country, man? Give him another opportunity. And there's a reason for that. It's because Trump is a threat. Trump is the good guy. He is part of the antithesis to the cabal. This is why Soros, who is part of the cabal, he's part of the global reset, along with the Bilderbergers, along with Bush, along with Obama. These assholes, these motherfuckers, okay, they're in bed together, and they got to get rid of because they know Trump's a real threat, and he's going to ruin their fucking plan. He's going to ruin their fucking plan, and I'm confident, man, that he is going to ruin their plan. There's nothing they're going to be able to do. This guy, yesterday, right? I had the bitch came out and said he raped me 30 years ago. And if you saw her on another, I think it was with not Bill Mayer, can't remember who she was on a show with, but she even admitted, well, he didn't really rape me. He groped me for 3 minutes and intimidated me, and then she tried to explain that rape, is not always, rape. It's, and she tried to use some really weird shit so to justify this whole thing. So at the end of the day, what it sounds like through her own admission is, Trump had her in a corner, and maybe he grabbed her tit or something. I doubt it, but she's trying to make it sound like he sexually assaulted her. And this was 30 years ago, okay? And he didn't even show up to the court. He's like, fuck, I'm not going there because this is going to go nowhere. But this made the news, right? And everybody on the left, Trump, another one came out. He raped another one, He's going to win because, dude, I mean, think about the beating he's fucking taking, and he just keeps coming back. It's like, yeah, bring it, bitches. And he just keeps winning, man. I love this guy, man.
Teflon Don.
I know there's guys out there that don't care. They're like, fucking Trump is a fucking meanie. Fucking fuck you. If fuck you. If you're that sensitive about his little mean tweets, and I don't like the way he talks and he looks and he grabs some chick by the pussy, we ain't in the same fucking camp, man. You're on the fucking wrong side of the fucking the fence, man. That's how I feel about it, and I don't have a problem saying that. I don't have a problem with alienating anybody, man. Anybody. When I flew through this San Francisco airport the whole time, I had my Trump 2024 cap on. I mean, I'm brazen about it. I'm like, fucking say something to me. Fuck with me about my hat. It's gonna fucking end badly for you. But of course nobody said nothing. I had a few people give me some fucking stupid looks, but they didn't do nothing. Of course they wouldn't do nothing, because they'll do that to conservative grandma, but they're not gonna fuck with a guy like me because they know I'll fucking hand in their ass, because they're cowards, but it's gonna take that, man. It's the kind of men we need, guys that got some fortitude and are not afraid to go out there and face, the threat and face, the blowback they might get from the left. I see them as my enemy. So I'm sorry. There was a time, I thought, sure, like a lot of us, in spite of our political beliefs, we can still be friends. We can't be friends no more. That train has left the station, man. Your politics, your political beliefs is putting my family in jeopardy. That's what it's doing. All this shit that you support is putting my family in jeopardy. We cannot be friends. We're enemies. Okay. You're no better than fucking terrorists. That's how that. Let me tell you something. You're killed by fucking your policies. That's how you kill. You destroy freedom. You kill people through your policies, just like communism did. Fucking 100 million people fucking dead because of this fucking political policies. And I said, that's where we're going, and that's why you're a threat to me, because you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot. And if you're not an idiot, then that means you support this shit. You're
complicit.
Yeah. So either way, I don't need you in my life. You're a fucking problem. You're a threat. And I'm not going to spend any time trying to change your mind. I don't care. My job is not to change their mind anymore. because that's not going to happen, right? Because it goes back to what I said earlier. Once they believe the lie, they're not going to change their minds. That's it. All I want to do is empower, people that are like-minded. Like, hey, man, fucking, lean forward in the foxhole and get ready, because this is not going to go away. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to take care of this, you got to take care of it. We're going to have to take care of this. And I'm not going to take care of it somewhere else in Ukraine. I'm going to take care of it right here in my country, because it is my country. It's more my country than it is any of these fucking left-wing fucking wingnuts, man. You know what? I actually served this country a lot. So has my entire family. I've done my part. I've paid a lot of money in fucking taxes for doing what I do. It's like I got taxed for fucking protecting this country, like exorbitant amounts of money, and it's like, fuck you on the left, little fucking purple haired motherfuckers, little fucking bitches. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I really don't care, man. We're done here, man. We're fucking done. We're not friends. I fucking killed terrorists that I thought were better than fucking a lot of these left wingers. At least those guys were fucking willing to fight for what they believed in, and they thought they were fighting for a righteous cause, and they had the balls to fucking die on the battlefield nobly. These cocksuckers hide behind their computers and shit, and they do all kinds of fucking nefarious shit behind the fucking scenes because they ain't got the balls, to fucking stand up to anybody, and fight a fucking fair fight. They're just fucking cowards, man. They're all fucking cowards. That's my fucking rant, man. I'm gonna close it out. Yeah, man. Every time I get on your show, Tommy, it's like,
no, man. I love it. That's why I love having you on.
I think I cussed more this time than I ever did. I cussed more this one show than I have at all your shows.
You're a barrel of gasoline, and
that shows you how freaking frustrated I am. When I cuss as much as I do,
I know. That's why I love it. You come on here, you're a barrel of gasoline, and what I do is I flick a cigarette into the air, and sometimes it lands on you in the first minute. Sometimes it takes half an hour to land on you, but eventually it lands, and then it just goes up, and it's a beautiful light. And I will.
Man, if we don't fucking fight back, if we don't speak up, what I really hate, man? I really hate the silent majority. Yeah. I said this before in your other shows. They're a bunch of fucking cowards. You're a bunch of fucking pussies. You're the silent majority. Well, I'm going to vote them out. How did that fucking work last time? It didn't. Right? Yeah. That shit doesn't fly. That's an excuse so I don't have to put myself out there and have to fucking defend myself, You're a fucking coward. Yeah. Look, you think the leftists fucking got a solid majority? These motherfuckers are coming out fucking raging, man. And look what happened. They're winning because they're getting out there and being fucking vocal, man. They're front and center, And then you have a few of us on the right that are willing to stand and get on the X with them, but the most people are just like, I'll be the silent majority. They go do their fucking job and come home and fucking, fucking do all their fucking household chores and mow the grass and cook dinner and fucking blah, 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 blah. Not realizing that that's just going to go away one day. You're going to lose all that shit one day if you don't fucking stand up, this is why, what was it? Revolutionary War, 3% fucking fought, 3% of Americans actually fucking had the balls to go out and save the other 97%. Just wanted to fucking mind my business, be silent majority.
The silent majority, I don't like the T-tax.
Yeah. Cocksuckers. Yeah, I don't have much fucking time for them either, man. You're a fucking conservative, you're the silent majority, and you ain't saying shit, fuck you. You might as well be a lefty, you know? Yeah. You ain't helping, you're a part of the fucking problem, you know? Yeah. So, you know what I'm going to do. I mean, without getting on here and saying it, you already know what I've got in plans, and it's going to be one of two things, but I'm going to do my part. And it ain't about the money. It's about the fucking mission. Yeah. And at the end of the day, my job is to get out there and fight literally for our freedom, man, and save our generations and save America, what's left of it. That's my goal, man. I don't care. In my age, I don't care, man. I'd rather fucking purpose, right? It's my fucking purpose, is I got to do it, and I will. And there's going to be others out there to follow me. But anyway.
In conclusion, be more like Billy Waugh.
Yeah, there you go, man. There's many guys like Billy Waugh. Billy Waugh is a legend, and I can't say nothing bad about the guy. Unfortunately, I don't know that much about him either. Yeah. He was that legend, man, that was out there that I heard of him. We heard the rumors, and then I was in awe when I first met him. He actually came to my hotel room and sat down. He's like, "Hey, I'm Billy Waugh, and I'll be handling you." Like, wow, fucking
Fuck yeah.
cool, man. And told me where to be, when to be there, And the funny thing was when he chewed my ass, he wasn't really chewing my ass because he knew it was a setup. But he had to light a fire under my ass to get me all rattled up,
For the
see him
polygraph.
fold, under the polygraph and all the other shit. But apparently I didn't fold. I did all right, and was downrange with Billy eventually. So good
Fuck
man.
yeah.
We need
Fuck
more guys like that. But he's literally the dying breed, man.
Yeah.
There's getting to be less and less guys like him. A lot less. And
Well, as we talked about before the show, I think we both do. We both do still have hope. We have hope, and we have reason to have hope. That it is going to win. There's a reason why the cabal is getting more and more desperate. They thrive staying in the shadows. They don't like coming out and showing their face. The fact that they're showing their face, there's reason for that. And it's because they're forced to do this, and they would rather not be forced to do this. So the question you have to ask is who's forcing them to do this? And that's reason for optimism.
Yeah, that's right.
Fuck yeah. Dale, let's wrap this one up. Guys, go in the description. Go follow Dale. You can go listen to him yell and scream. His Instagram and Twitter are fucking great follows. So he's always talking shit about Greta Thunberg or David Hogg. It's fucking fantastic. And after you watch this podcast, you can read his tweets in Dale's voice. It makes it that much better.
All right, brother.
Dale, as always, brother, man. I love you. Thanks for the thank you for your time. Thank you for the podcast, and I can't wait for the next one.
Be good. Bye-bye.
All right, big dog. Thank you so much.